Turn away from sin. Be faithful to the gospel. Turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel. The cross of ashes traced upon our foreheads on Ash Wednesday have disappeared. But I hope the words that were spoken, turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel, I hope those words still resound in our ears and echo in our hearts. For those words are so important as we make this Lenten journey. Turn away from sin, be faithful to the gospel. Temptations. Temptations, yes, we all have them. And some of us will say, it wasn't my fault, the devil made me do it. Temptations. We hear in the gospel today that Jesus himself was tempted by the devil in the desert. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times the devil tempted Jesus. And Jesus had this choice to say either yes to the devil or no. Say yes to the temptation or no. And what was Jesus' response? No. 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 3 times the devil tempted Jesus. And 3 times Jesus stood strong, saying no, no, no. My temptations, Trevor's temptations. I wish I could say that there were only 3 of them, but I have a list much longer than that. And as the Americans love to say, I'm going to plead the 5th for fear of incriminating myself by telling you my temptations. But I will tell you one. This one. As I've been praying this week about being tempted in the desert, Jesus being tempted in the desert, my own temptation in the desert, it comes to me that I think this one is probably, at least today, perhaps this year, because I know it's certainly been strong in years past, that this temptation to control has been a temptation that I've had to confront, because that control is not just control, but control. Huge, in capitals, with red color around it, with red outline around it. That so often I have needed to be in control. So often I only function well when I am the boss. So often that I am confronted with this temptation to make sure I have my finger in every pie, that I am in control of every action, of every word, of every whatever. Being in control is my temptation. It is this temptation that rocks me. It is this temptation that grabs me by the throat. It is this temptation that leads me away from God. Turn away from sin. Be faithful to the gospel. So unlike Jesus, I haven't been able to say no to this. I haven't been able to say no to this temptation. But I know in the depth of my heart, I know in my mind, I know through my whole body that I have to confront this temptation of mine. And I think the key to my confronting control is this: turn away from sin, be faithful to the gospel. Turn away from sin, be faithful to the gospel. So, control is one of my temptations, one of my sins. And I know that I can only confront that sin by turning to the gospel. What is the sin that we need to turn from so that we can turn to the gospel and be healed? For me, control turns me from God, turns my back to the Lord. When I focus on the gospel, when I focus on Jesus Christ, and mark my words, sometimes that's very difficult for me to do. When I focus on the Lord, then I am given the grace to let go. Turn away from sin, be faithful to the gospel.